it's kind of difficult being someone in my position that's, I'm an actor. I want to work later on in the acting industry, and I want to be able to work also potentially as a creator and a collaborator in other kinds of art. Like, I want to be able to either direct films, write screenplays. I want to write plays. I want to direct plays. I want to have some kind of availability to me when it comes to creating. And I understand that a platform like this, where I review movies, can seem like a negative thing, where somebody like me is very observant and very critical and is able to critique certain things and look through an objective lens. I understand that it can be difficult to do something like that. And I don't look at it as a negative thing. This platform has actually helped me work through a better critical understanding of things. I find that I don't look at screenplays or plays or movies the same way ever since I started doing this, because I've been able to work through what it is exactly that I like, but also work through what makes a great film. Like, I can watch movies that I don't enjoy personally, but I can also see the greatness behind them. I can understand why people like them because they're technically well made. The thing I always want to promote, though, is positivity. I want to make sure that people understand that I love talking about movies, I love talking about art, I love talking about music, and that's what this channel is for. It's for me to talk about things that I love with people that I care about. I don't like talking about things that I don't like talking about or like thinking about, because it just causes a bitter and negative platform that I think we have enough of as it is on the internet. And I think if we can promote more positive things, then we can, in turn, make a better use of this machine, a better use of the internet as a whole. So why I do things on this channel is to bring a new insight, bring a new perspective, and look at things from a different lens. And offer people a way of looking at things that maybe they couldn't see on their own, and ways I didn't see on my own. But sometimes I think about movies and I think about things that I don't like, things I hate, things that frustrate me. And Beauty and the Beast, the Disney remake from 2017, is one of those things I really hate. But for a weird reason, I really love talking about it. It's one of those movies that everything about it, when I think about it, rubs me the wrong way. But it's something I always feel the need to talk about. And I've been putting off this video for a while. I wanted to talk about this movie when it first came out in 2017, but I was too passionate about it. I was too disheartened by it to really be objective about it. So I waited for it to be released. And I initially was going to do a full-on video essay or analysis where I break down scene by scene, minute by minute, issues with the film in comparison to the animated movie. Because this movie is basically taking the animated film story, copying it, and applying it to its own, to this film, basically to live action. But to seem different, they add things. And these additions that they make are not things that service the original story. They're things that they just thought, hey, let's put this in because maybe this will make sense with the times, or maybe we can put a good message in here. But the problem with that is that the original film's story doesn't work with the additions they made. The one addition that I think is, that I believe is the worst addition in this film, is also the worst scene I saw from 2017. And I'm talking, of all the movies I saw, which was close to 30 movies, it was the worst scene I saw out of all of those films. So before I start, let me explain what the scene is, because I don't know how to grab video clips without getting copyright or being pulled down, so instead, I will do my best to explain what happens in the scene. Right after the big song, Belle, in the beginning of the movie, Belle has a communication with her father. They meet in their house, and then he is off to go to... actually, it's somewhere. They never say in the movie, it's not the fair or the market because there's a market or a fair in their town. So he's off somewhere. He's just going off. I don't know. Belle goes to their family storage room and she is writing down a piece of paper, plotting out diagrams and measurements. And it turns out that she is trying to create a device. Belle is given an addition to this story about being an inventor. Now, the device that she's trying to make is a washing machine, which consists of a barrel being rotated on some kind of axis and working in a circle. And then when you put your laundry inside of it and your clothes, you put these like suds things inside, and then when you hook it up to a donkey or any animal, it walks around in a circle and is able to wash your laundry. So she works a few diagrams in the storage room, she sees that she's happy with it, and then she goes out to test the machine outside. Now, while this is happening and rotating, she sits down on her own, right at the edge of like this well, and she reads a book. Now, right across from her, there is a little girl who is folding a large stack of laundry by herself. And she sees Belle, and she asks Belle, "What are you doing?" Belle says, "Reading," and she instructs the little girl to come over, pulling her away from her laundry. The little girl then starts reading the book, and she reads it pretty well, and Belle encourages her to keep going. Then the male headmaster in the film calls over and goes, "What are you doing? Teaching a little girl to read? Isn't one enough?" Then right next to him there is an older woman villager who says, "We've got to do something." She motions over to the headmaster, they walk away a little bit, and then the next cut shows a group of villagers taking the machine, breaking it, pouring down Belle's clothes, the water, the suds, everything onto the ground. Belle is frustrated and upset. She picks up all of her laundry, and then she basically rushes home, and she's just really upset. Gaston tries to take this in as a little bit of a leeway to try to console her, try to make sure that she's okay, and encourage him and bring her closer to him. He says, "Belle, the villagers are never going to listen to the kind of change that you're trying to bring." And Belle says, "All I was trying to do was trying to help a little girl to read." Let's start off by breaking down the message part. This world is hard on women. It's difficult being a woman. Okay, we understand that. A lot of movies have focused on that similar topic. Thelma and Louise, The Apartment, heck, even Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof focuses it on in a very different way. But we understand that message. This movie focuses on that a lot, but in this scene in particular, that is the point. The issue here is they undercut that message with the two villager characters. The headmaster, the male headmaster, looking at them and commenting on Belle's trying to teach a little girl to read. Of course. That happens. He's just judging them for being girls, for trying to learn in this day and age, okay? Because they're going for authenticity. But he doesn't do anything. He's just commenting on them. He's just judging them. The person who really gets something going, the person who really rallies people and gets the villagers to actually do something to stop this, is the older woman villager. She's the one who starts the change. She's the one who says, "Hey, we've got to do something about this," pulls the headmaster over, who listens and goes with her, and then they actually do something about it. They ruin the machine. Very quickly, why do they ruin the machine? If their issue was with her teaching a little girl to read, why didn't they just rip up the book? They just take the book and rip it. Why would you wreck the machine if your problem is with the reading? So the message here is not this world is hard on women as a whole. The message is that this world is hard on women who are creative thinkers, intelligent thinkers, and artists. Now that is a problem, because that's a very alienating demographic. Because, let's face it, not every woman is a creative artist. Not every woman is in that same vein of being a sculptor, or being an actor, or an actress, or a writer, or even a literary person. Like, some women just aren't that, and they're perfectly fine people. You don't have to be an artist to be a strong woman. That doesn't have to be the case for you. You can be strong and be interesting and be a perfectly fine person and not be an artist. But the movie is saying that, no, those people are evil. Those people are, well, not evil, but they're the people that should be judged and condemned. Those people there are really getting in the way of these women, the artists, the ones who are the victims of all of this. The artists are trying so desperately just to teach other people arts, and these women who are working hard and laborers and providing for families and only doing that because they don't know how to read, those women are the bad guys. It'd be the equivalent of a pastor right in front of a congregation of a bunch of people who are drug dealers and condemning them, when that pastor immediately halfway through his sermon goes to the altar and snorts up a bunch of coke and just screams out to the congregation, "Only those who are anointed by God may have the angel dust." That is essentially what is happening here. You are preaching to us a message, but your entire execution of it and the way that you're presenting it doesn't work. And the worst part about this scene is that Emma Watson is playing Belle. She's playing the artist. She's playing the victim. And Emma Watson is a huge spokesperson for both male and female equality. Not the idea that one version is higher or one tier of people is lower. No, she votes and feels that everyone should be equal. And that positive message, that really positive message that she speaks about at UN conferences, at other meetings around the world, she's become an icon and a staple voice for women's rights and for equality rights. And she's attached to this message which is alienating and condemning of one side. I don't know about you, but that feels weird to me. And I think it puts a negative connotation behind her message. Now, the other issue with this scene is that this is also working as an introduction to Belle for the rest of the movie. It's only within 15 minutes, and this movie is using this scene as an introduction to Belle. This movie is using the 1991 version of Belle and bringing it into this story. Now, the thing with that is I think that the animated Belle is a fantastic character in animated cinema. I think, and I'm in agreement with Emma Watson and Bill Condon, the director, if you've ever seen them talk in interviews about the importance of Belle. It's an important character, not just for little girls, but she's an important role model for everyone. She's intelligent, she has her own self-desires, and she wants to go after the things that she values and the things that she cares about. She wants adventure, but she's also respectful to people like Gaston, even though she has a definite sense of understanding. She's not naive whenever it comes to people like Gaston when they make advances on her. She's very compassionate. She's very caring. She also is very sociable. She's someone that you can have a conversation with. And she's well developed. I feel like when people talk about strong female characters, they're looking at the wrong thing. When I think of a strong character in general, I think of a well-developed character. And that's what Belle is. She is very well-developed. But I also think one of her key things is that she's able to be vulnerable. Belle is open to being sad and being open about how she feels and isn't behind some kind of emotional wall. She doesn't try to be antsy or distant. Even though she's young, she's still true to her emotions and true to how she feels about things. This version that they are presenting from the animated film is great, but the additions, especially in the laundry scene, are terrible. For that character, they're awful because they illustrate that Belle that they are working with is actually kind of selfish and self-righteous and cold and rude to people. Not compassionate and not respectful, but just all she cares about is herself. If you've looked at the scene, Belle, the big musical number introducing her, there's a moment where women are doing laundry and Belle walks across this well while the little girls are folding laundry, And she doesn't wait for them to be done. She makes her way and marches across to the rhythm of the music, and the little girls pull away from her feet. Belle treats herself like a princess in this movie. Like, the bad kind. The one that's like, get out of my way, peasants. I'm the important one. I'm the one that matters. Yip-de-doop-de-doo. It's weird seeing this version in this scenario. And then, what's worse is, Belle is a terrible role model in this movie. She's terrible with representing what being creative and what being innovative can do for people. Because look at it from the character perspective of what is being presented. Don't look at it from an audience member. Think of yourself as being a character in this movie. You're a villager, and you see Belle. Now, she reads, she's a little odd, but she goes out of her way to march across this well area where these little girls are trying to fold clothes. So she thinks of herself as the only important thing in the world. She also will, while doing her own laundry, ignore a little girl who is working on her own laundry right across from her and just go on reading. It doesn't allow her to be compassionate or ask if that little girl needs help. Instead, she'll just shun her and just sit and read. Now, you could say, well, maybe those clothes aren't dirty, so why would she put them into the wheelbarrow or the barrel at all? It's like, okay, that's a good point. But what if they're clean? Well, maybe they're clean. Like, if they're clean, then Belle should go over there and ask, hey, can I help you with this mountain of laundry that at its current height is at your head, little girl, and you've already folded quite a bit on your own? Do you think I could help you out a little bit? That's what the original Belle would do, not this version, though. And that taints that original. And not only that, but then people see, hey, wait a minute, what is she doing? She pulls this little girl away from her chores, away from completing what she has been asked to do from her parents, who are probably not very wealthy and who need those clothes. She pulls that little girl away to read from this book. And now we're seeing a girl who is completely oblivious to the world around her and doesn't care. And she's just so self-centered in her own world. And that's what Gaston was in the original film. I just realized that. The reason I don't like Belle in this world is because she's got the same focuses and the same feelings in this introduction as Gaston does in his introduction in the animated movie. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. You can't muddy the lines between your protagonist and your antagonist. Not in that far of a respect. You can do that with something like Batman or the Joker, where they're both against, where they're not with the law, but one of them's so far against in chaos and one's on order. So we know where the line is. No, I don't know. I don't know where that separation is. And if this was just its own adaptation or its own idea, that would be totally fine. Because then you could introduce new ways of conflict or ideas. But no. Instead, this movie is muddying the lines between one of the most respectable and one of the greatest characters in animated cinema, and is comparing it and putting it in the same position as one of the greatest antagonists of animated cinema. Another thing just crossed my mind. Is Belle a thief in this movie? Because where did she get the donkey from? The donkey that's turning this washing machine, where did it come from? Because we were never told or shown that she even has a donkey. She doesn't come away from the well carrying it with her. It's just like, I just wanted to teach kids to read. Like, she's not... Where did she get it from? Because all we know that she has is the horse, and her dad took that. So did she steal that donkey? And if so, is there just like some donkey guy, like some donkey farmer looking for one of his mules? And did he snitch on her? Did he go to the meeting where the village decided to break this machine and say, she stole my donkey, we have a right to destroy this thing? Because then, yeah, they do have a right if that's the scenario. It doesn't work for the story that they are showing us. These additions of Belle don't work. And the problem is, this is within the first 15 minutes. And now we gotta follow this self-righteous, rude, egotistically thinking girl who's in her own world and only cares about herself. And then we have to follow her throughout this movie. And The problem is that the choices that come, if this was just being introduced as a flawed character, that would be fine, because maybe the events that take place would be able to change her for the better. But the events that take place only happen, and she only reacts to them in response to them because the animated films show that they respond this way. There's no real dedication to searching and finding these emotions and finding the truth in these events and these changes. Instead, it's just, well, that Belle did it, so I'm going to do it too. And that's not good performing or good acting or good choices to make. It's just hollow, and it's imitation and copying, which is what this movie is. Now, the message aside, the character aside, all of that stuff to the side, the thing that really gets under my skin is that it makes no sense for the villagers to destroy the washing machine. We have just been shown now 2 scenes, including this one, where laundry is a huge thing. It is something that they have to do in this society. It's absolutely mandatory, and they do it by hand. So, the washing machine is a huge benefit. I understand the idea that Belle is doing this off in private and just working through it, maybe experimenting, seeing if this works. And if it doesn't work, then she can go back to the drawing board. I understand that. But you can tell people about this. You can inform people because it is beneficial to the whole town. Let me introduce a possible scenario for you here. Hello, Cynthia. How are you today? Oh, hello, Dorothy. Well, I'm doing okay. But things could be better. Oh, why is that, Cynthia? Well, I have so many chores to complete today, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get them done by the time my husband gets home from his hunt. Oh my goodness, that's awful. What do you have to do? Well, to start with, I have to go down to the market and I have to sell the eggs that I just picked fresh from my chickens, and then I have to deal with people complaining and complaining about how 6 eggs are too expensive, which makes no sense because they asked for 6 eggs, and I tell them the price and I've never changed it, and they're just complaining and complaining about it being too expensive. It makes no sense why someone would ask for 6 eggs and then complain with them being too expensive. It just makes no sense. But anyway, I then have to gather up produce to help build a lovely little salad at home for my husband's game that he is bringing home. And I also have to grab flowers for my table to make it look oh so special for dinner tonight. Oh, that would make dinner look oh so special. Yes, it would, wouldn't it? But anyway, after all of that, I have to gather up all of this produce and bring it home all on my own, prepare dinner, and then by the time my husband comes home, I have to cook the game that he has brought. And then, after we've eaten our lovely dinner with that special flower in the middle, I then have to take his bloody garments, and I have to clean all of our laundry at 10 o'clock at night, and then I have to do it in the dark, and it's so hard to do laundry in the dark. I can't tell you, Dorothy. I can't tell you. Oh, Cynthia, I understand. It's awful. Just awful. Oh, my goodness. I wish there was some way that I'd be able to do laundry in a more efficient manner and be able to do it so that I could do it while I was at the market, maybe, and then go and check on it every once in a while and maybe let it dry out in the sun because these days are so hot in this small provincial town we live in. Oh, goodness. If only someone could create an invention that would be able to help us more efficiently do laundry. One can only dream. It makes no sense why they would destroy it. And this is kind of where the issue comes up. Because this is a new addition to the story, and I think it is a brilliant addition. Not just the idea of the washing machine in general, but that Bella's an inventor. Because you're opening up a new avenue for this character to grow. Prepare yourselves. Because I'm about to do something that this movie didn't do. I'm about to change the story that it used for its movie. I'm going to use the same kind of construct that is introduced from the beginning and then create an entirely different scenario. And I want to express what I think could have been done better. Because, in my opinion, what makes the animated film so great was that it was an adaptation. And it knew what kind of adaptation it needed to be. They were really working through what they needed to do to make this story work for them and for their vision. If you see my favorite animated films, you hear me discuss that Jean Cocteau made the 1946 version of Beauty and the Beast. And he adapted that film from the original source material to be a more adult fairy tale. It was focusing more on the undercurrent of sexual desire in oneself, even focusing a little bit on the idea of bestiality. But it was doing it in a way that wasn't disgusting. It was actually very sophisticated and very poetic. It was focusing also on the idea of man becoming a beast and losing his nobility, and a woman trying to find some sense of discovery within herself. It was very interesting. It was a different take, and it was a far stretch from the original source material. The animated movie moved away from those undercurrents of sexuality and made it more about individual values and an individual personality, and being true to oneself, and going off on an adventure and trying to find what it is you're passionate about, and to find someone who can support your passion, and communication between differences, and being able to change someone through your own personality and being able to grow that way. It also showed how one's own self-destruction can be brought by them committing too much to their own individual self. Those little things were the themes that drove Beauty and the Beast in their story, and the story elements that were used focused on that. The thing that Bill Condon talks about, though, in a making-of documentary that you can find on YouTube about this film, is he wanted to make sure that the villagers had distinct personalities, that they weren't just villagers, they were actual people. But the problem with this story that they're using that in, the villagers aren't meant to be people. They are just a background, a thing for Belle to move away from. They're just that thing that is holding Belle back, and that thing that Belle wants to get away from. That's it. When you give these people personalities for that same story, it doesn't work, because then you're like, well, which individual are we trying to focus on? And what's their value? What's their value? And when you don't understand what they care about, then you start to realize that the themes that are running through the main story don't connect with the rest of the story, so it just becomes a hodgepodge. It just becomes a mashup of a bunch of things that just don't work, and you get lost. But I don't think Bill Condon was misguided in focusing and giving personalities to these people. What he should have done instead was focus on the collective rather than the individual. And I think that would have made a much richer film. Think about this. The same scene, the idea of Belle being an inventor and having the wheelbarrow be the washing machine. See the villager see this machine and go, oh my gosh, how did you come up with this? This is exactly what we need, because it's taking us forever to do laundry. Thank you so much. Do you have any other ideas, Belle? And Belle is a little bit thrown off. Me? Okay, I could probably pose a few ideas for maybe we can find a better way to transfer the water, or maybe find a more efficient way to harvest eggs. Sure, let's find some kind of egging machine. Let's work on this. And now Belle's position in the town is higher because now she is working for the group, and then they've seen the value of becoming more developed and being more efficient. So Belle is now their head architect, the kind of person that is able to develop an entire city, an entire metropolis possibly in the future. And she's promoting a positive thinking for creativity and artistry. And because Gaston is a soldier in this version, what could happen instead of him just being the handsome man who's handsome, he could be a mayor and brought to that position of power through his medals and through his honor and through all of that. And we would later realize that he has a secret desire for Belle. And with him being mayor, and with Belle now being in this position of architect of the town, they become a lot closer. And now Gaston can kind of, that message idea, Gaston can kind of play that role of the very powerful individual who is taking advantage of this young person who's just trying to get ahead in their own life and trying to better their own situation. This whole idea of developing becomes difficult when Belle finds out that her father's been taken by the beast, and of course she goes because she cares about her father more than anything else. And that's why she's taken this position, to only better their own life. And well, if he's gone, then she's just working and it's just empty and there's no purpose. So then, to her, that's her individual feelings, and then she leaves to go and save her father. Then we get all the information from the castle staff about how their clocks and Lumiere and all of those, Mrs. Potts and Chip, that they will become antiques when something bad happens, when the spell is broken. Or when the spell is not broken, they become antiques. And Belle wants to help them, but now she has a very big dilemma. If she stays with these people, the castle staff, and even if she's able to break the spell, she leaves behind her hometown. And that town stays undeveloped, stays in the past, and has really no possibility of flourishing as a society without anybody to creatively think or to creatively develop anything. What's worse is that later on, she realizes that this town, because they care about her and they need her, may actually attack the castle and may destroy the people inside of it if she doesn't go. But then again, if she goes back to the town and helps develop them into a rich utopia, she's basically sending another collective to die. There's no chance that any choice she makes is the best one. And now she's battling the idea of self versus the collective. What is better? Self-sacrificing your own values for the values of other people? And then which collective do you go with? Do you go with the one that has the ability to develop into something great and span future generations? Or do you go with the one that potentially saves lives? That is a deep idea to think about. And what's even better is that there's still the other conflict with Gaston, that as mayor, he's spurring on the people's idea to attack and to go after them because he is the embodiment of personal interest. And all he cares about is Belle. He doesn't care about the town. He just wants Belle. And I think today that sounds like a really interesting thing to go into. This movie was just trying to talk about how issues are hard for women and we need equality rights for women. But it didn't focus on something that we're still not focusing on, is that we need to understand the problems with the collective wholesale of everyone, not just one group or one person. So what do? How do we make things beneficial for both sides? And I think Beauty and the Beast could have done that very well. And the Beast could play a part in that. I don't know what kind of part, but he could play some kind of part. And I think this would be an infinitely rich film. I don't know if it'd be a masterpiece, but I at least know that there would be stuff to dive into and to really think about it and go, wow, Beauty and the Beast made me really think. That's impressive. I didn't think he could make me think this deep about clocks and little tiny teacups. Huh. Wow. But the problem with the movie that I've pitched to you guys is I don't think it would have made $1.2 billion the way that the version we got would. I think it would have made $400 million, if I'm being completely honest, which is twice as much as it cost to make the film. I feel as if, Disney got what they wanted. They got a profit on this. And I hate that. And I hate that people think that money and profiting off of something through currency is success. Money does not equal success. Not at all. Harold Prince, the producer on Broadway, who has produced numerous shows with Stephen Sondheim, one of them being Pacific Overtures, said in an interview about Pacific Overtures, a show that was a bunch of Asian American actors performing on Broadway, he said that it was a success. It was a flop, but it was a success. even though something is a financial flop, that doesn't mean it's a failure. I don't think of great movies as being something that is subjective. I genuinely think that there are films that are great because of the technical mastery of the craft behind them. You can say whatever you want about certain films. You can say that The Godfather is a bad movie for you. You could say that There Will Be Blood is a bad movie for you. Or you could say that The Apartment is a bad movie for you. Those are great movies. Not because of somebody's personal opinions, not because of my personal opinions, but because the craft behind them is phenomenal. It is precise, and it is used to the best ability to tell that story. All the elements in those films are used to fully realize the story that the creators were trying to create. Even if you don't like them, they're still great films. But this movie is a failure. Beauty and the Beast 2017 is a failure. I don't care how much money it made, and I don't care how many people buy it on Blu-ray. This movie is a technical failure. I'm not saying anything against the creators personally. I don't think anyone on this film is a bad person, but I do think they made bad choices to tell this story. They should have instead created a new story and changed some things, and not just add things into a story that already works on its own and is perfect. Because the animated Beauty and the Beast is a great film through all of the technical craft. Money is not a determining factor on a film's success. That is determined instead by uniqueness, by insightfulness, and by inspiration to tell a story. This movie sacrifices uniqueness with flashy clothes and big set pieces. It sacrifices insightfulness for weak supported arguments and messages and ankle-deep subtext. And this movie replaces inspiration, the technical, artistic expression that drives so many films and so many pieces of art. It replaces it with exploiting nostalgia and aiming for simple and flashy copying that they know would bring them a profit. And that was the fuel that drove this movie. Profit and iconography had nothing to do with the original story. They could care less. All they cared about was this was a product that we made a long time ago, and we're just going to bring it back now and make a huge profit off of it, and we're going to do it again and again and again. And you're going to keep watching it, and you're going to keep watching it because we decide what you see. Because we own you now. We own your childhood. Disney is a corporation I love. They have made some of the best films of the last few years. I will still say that Inside Out is one of the best films of the decade. Coco was a very impressive animated film that I loved. And people said that The Incredibles 2 was just as good as the original film because they care. People at Disney care. And when they don't care, it disheartens me. I know it's not the first time that a company hasn't cared. I know that. The biggest defense I have heard for this movie is that it's Disney. And I love Disney. Well, I love Disney too. I love Disney when they create insightful and meaningful pieces of art. Like Pinocchio, or Snow White, or Beauty and the Beast from 1991. I don't like it when movies or corporations decide to exploit something just to profit because they can do it. We're seeing now with comic book movies that they are able to make films that mean something. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been able to take so many movies, and even if you don't like them, it is impressive how much dedication that the people have making those films have to making them, and making them fit, and making them make sense within the whole universe that they are setting up, because they care. Beauty and the Beast, the remake, doesn't care. Now, there are a lot more problems with this movie that make me hate it, but the fundamental ones I can find in just the laundry scene. The movie doesn't support its message as well. Belle is a complete contradiction of all of her actions. Because, just now, I just realized she wants the little girl to read and pulls her over and tries to be compassionate, but just before, she was just marching right across where the girls were doing their laundry. And it missed out on opportunities where it could have been interesting, insightful, or just unique, and it just copied the original story. And that makes me sick. I know it doesn't seem like it matters too much, making a video just talking about this, but it did mean something to me. I think it's important that we talk about these things. I think it's important that we're challenged by art, and I think it's valuable to share things like this. I would love to do something similar with movies I love. And I was just really passionate about this, and it means a lot to me that you guys sat down and watched this. If you guys have any comments about the laundry scene or about any scenes from Beauty and the Beast, let me know. And please, in the comment section, don't attack anybody. If anybody says anything that you don't agree with, don't feel the need to attack them. Just ask them why. Why do they feel that way? And if somebody says that they love Disney as a defense, fine. I don't like it, but I get it. It's a defense I understand. And I think we can all just respect and understand each other. Do what's better for the collective, and not just for yourself. Do what this movie didn't do. Take care, guys.